Happening now on Grid Tonight. McLaren will leave Formula E at the end of season 11. Is McLaren making the right decision to prioritize their new hypercar program in 2027? Connor Zilisch, he's going to miss the Texas race weekend after suffering lower back injuries at Talladega. Will the extra time off ensure that he's ready for Charlotte? Hello to all of our viewers here watching in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm sorry, the intro music, for some reason I clicked it. It did not play, but we'll keep on with our program tonight. And I'm Kobe Lambert. With me are Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports, Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index, and Formula E analyst Edward Hunter. We encourage everyone to interact with us in the chat. Support us through Super Chat and visit gridnetworktv.com for our latest content. Now here's Josh with our top story this evening.
Thank you, Kobe. Good evening to you. Good evening, Matt. Good evening, Ed. Nice to see you again, my friend. So let's dive in straight away with once our top story being a Formula E story, which is great news as well. But not so great news for this, because at the end of last week, the Neon McLaren Formula E team announced that a strategic review of its racing programs concluded with the decision to withdraw from the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship at the end of the current season. Now, despite the exit from Formula E, McLaren remains fully committed to finishing season 11 on a high note with drivers Taylor Barnard and Sam Bird. Now, entering this weekend's doubleheader Monaco E-Prix, Barnard is 4th in points and Bird is 13th, as both drivers utilised the Nissan powertrain. In the team's championship, McLaren is currently 3rd behind Porsche and Nissan. McLaren CEO Zak Brown said that they are proud of what they've accomplished in Formula E and believes the series plays an important role in the motorsport landscape. However, it's time to explore other opportunities as McLaren prepares to enter the World Endurance Championships Hypercar class for 2027. The photo courtesy there of McLaren. Matt and Ed with me for this segment as well. So, Matt, starting with you, for Formula E, how disappointing is McLaren's withdrawal from the series? And how would you rate the Neon McLaren Formula E team's success up to this point in the past 3 seasons?
Well, evening, guys. It's pretty big, isn't it? I mean, it's not like a big manufacturer, a car manufacturer going away like BMW have in the past, like Mercedes or someone like that, or Audi for that matter. But within the racing world, it's obviously a massive name, and McLaren have got programs coming out the yazoo at the moment, and I guess they had to make a decision on what was going to go. Formula One was obviously never going to be on that table. All the GT stuff is run through the customer programs, so it was either going to be IndyCar or Formula E. And I guess with the American market, they needed to make that IndyCar stick. So Formula E was the short, got pulled as a short straw, which is a real shame because it's been a bit of an up and down program since they took over. But certainly this year, it's proved to be going much better with Taylor Barnard, especially in that team. But yeah, it's a shame to see it happening. But as I say, also they needed to make some changes somewhere to free up the resources and free up the people that will be able to, hopefully, or for them, transition fairly without too much trouble across to the hypercar program.
Yeah, hello everyone. It's good to be back. But yeah, it was interesting, Josh, that when this story broke, the thing that you sent to me was, oh, you must have wished really hard for this, Dan, because Neon McLaren is obviously sponsored by their title sponsor, which is the Neon Mega City project in the middle of Saudi Arabia, which is, I've talked about before, it's controversial to say the least, and certainly I'm not shedding over tears. I'm not shedding over tears, any tears over the fact that McLaren basically found out that Neom and the Saudi Arabian state weren't willing to fund a Gen 4 project. And so they decided, right, we're going to leave a season early anyway. So there is technically on the grid, you know, a free Nissan powertrain and basically free sponsorship from Neom for the season 12, if anyone wants it, for the team that Ian James effectively runs, essentially. So yeah, for a new manufacturer coming in that wants a bit of time to prepare for Gen 4, that's on the table. But I think when we're judging McLaren's success in Formula E, you've got to remember that the team existed before McLaren came in. It was originally Mercedes, and Mercedes, of course, had even before that in season 5, a sort of training year as HWA. And McLaren sort of in about 2021. So this was middle or near the end of season 7, if I remember correctly. They signed, it might have actually been beginning of season 7, they signed an option where Zach Brown put out a statement that said, "Oh, Formula E sounds interesting. We're signing an option. We might not take it up. We'll see what happens," which does not scream to me a committed Formula E potential entrant. And then Mercedes pulled out, as we know, because they basically said, "Oh, we won in our first year." Yeah, said one of the members of the Mercedes board at the time, even though it was actually their second year, the third if you count the HWA year. So clearly, the Mercedes board that making that decision don't watch Formula E. But anyway, I guess it's pretty hard to watch in some territories in terms of the TV deals not being great. Although that is, starting to change, at least in the UK, at least, with it being back on ITV. So McLaren decided they wanted to buy up that entry because they sort of got a ready-made championship-winning Formula E team. Mercedes won both championships in season 7 and season 8 with Nick de Vries and Stoffel van Dorn, respectively. And then, of course, they became a customer team with Nissan. We know, obviously, they've had a little bit of issues. They did win the Brazilian Grand Prix with Sam Bird in Sao Paulo last season, and that was a little bit of luck in terms of the safety car helped them out, I still feel. But Sam Bird, nonetheless, drove absolutely fantastically to overtake Mitch Evans, kept the battery just about cool enough in insanely high temperatures on the streets of Sao Paulo and the Sambadrome. So that's probably the overall career highlight, along with some of Taylor Barnard's performances this season. And as you pointed out, Josh, 4th in the championship is brilliant from a guy that's in his first full season. And even, regardless of what happens, I believe Taylor Barnard does have a contract with whatever this team turns into next season. So, yeah, we're not expecting him to go anywhere, but he might become hot property. And if maybe it's difficult to get a deal together financially, even with the Neon money for season 12, we might see Taylor Barnard poached by one of the big manufacturers effectively. But so it's a long answer, I know, but to summarize, I think I can't really look at McLaren's tenure in Formula unless they turn around massively and win one of the championships this season. You have to compare it to what Mercedes achieved and consider, even though they're a customer team, and they were moaning about being a customer team as well. I say, well, rather than dilly-dallying for a whole year of whether you're going to enter or not, you should have, obviously McLaren was providing the batteries for Gen 2, but they should have, got themselves into gear, fully committed, and built their own powertrain, which is what they promised to do. That was sort of what Nissan was supposed to be a stopgap before Gen 4 McLaren made their own powertrain. But Zach Brown has decided, well, there's not enough eyeballs on it, so we're going to take all our McLaren fan base away and go race in World Endurance Championship instead, which in terms of it's got, Le Mans 24 Hours certainly it's their headline event. It's got big eyeballs. Monaco E-Prix is arguably one of the Formula E jewels in the crown, I guess, and certainly more exciting to watch than the Formula 1 race in Monaco in terms of just more happens and it's difficult to tell who's going to win at any given moment of that race due to attack mode and the energy wearing down and all the other factors as well. But yeah, I have to say, McLaren is going to leave and feel that there was more on the table, that they could have achieved so much more in Formula E.
Absolutely. And in a recent interview with members of the media, we'll get to that in a second, sad to see McLaren leave Formula E. Those cars really stand out. Can't wait to see how McLaren do in the World Endurance Championship, says Adam. And good evening to everybody as well. Good evening to you as well, Adam as well. So, I do apologise, by the way, I'm a bit out of breath. It's very stuffy in this room, as I'm sure Matt will agree as well. And Ed, I don't know how it is for you with the humidity here this evening. We're not all... actually, I don't know if Kobe has air conditioning. I'll ask him that when he comes back in the next segment. So, in a recent interview with members of the media, Formula E CEO Jeff Dodds said, "We can't sugarcoat McLaren's Formula E exit because it's bad news." And he was surprised by the decision. Now, in the past, many have believed that a McLaren Hypercar program wouldn't have had an impact on its Formula E, Formula 1 and IndyCar programs. To add to that little bit, certainly when we first heard that McLaren were thinking about joining World Endurance Championship, it was alongside. We even joked on this program around about 18 months ago that McLaren win every single series and they were hiring all their drivers up. So McLaren now becomes the fourth major manufacturer to leave Formula E in recent years, as Ed's mentioned, joining the likes of Audi, BMW, and Mercedes. Now, although McLaren is on the way out of the door, Dodds still believes that Formula E is in a good place with current manufacturers of Porsche, Jaguar, Nissan, Stellantis Group, and Yamaha all signed up for the next generation of Formula E. Now, the link to the Racer.com article with his full quotes is in the video description below. But Ed, do you agree with Jeff Dodds that Formula E is still in a good place despite McLaren's upcoming exit?
Morally, no, because there's still loads of Saudi money, and if for whatever reason, the NEOM group having to pull out of a McLaren team is maybe a signal of something seriously wrong. Things are going very badly wrong with the oil-based Saudi economy, and they're sponsoring. They're heavily investing in. We've seen their logo all over the track. PIF, Saudi Airlines, SABIC, which is obviously part of Aramco as well. Then I think maybe this is a prelude to a lot of Saudi money being pulled out of the sport almost a year after it was put in with great fanfare. Then that's a big hole that it's going to be difficult to fill. So I think that should worry Jeff Dodds on its own. In terms of the manufacturers staying there, though, I think most of those are committed, if I'm not mistaken. I think Mahindra was one of the early committers to both Gen 3 and Gen 4. If I'm just thinking off the top of my head, I know Porsche are staying, should be. Nissan have had a few wobbles. Jaguar seem a little bit all at sea on track at the moment, but they are committed. And Stellantis Group, there's been a few murmurings about the Maserati team, whether the Maserati name is going to disappear, because basically that was supposed to be their big EV brand, and sales haven't been as good as I think they would have been hoping. And so they've had to sort of cancel, what was it, sort of $1 billion of investment that they were going to put into Maserati, that part of the company. So obviously Stellantis have got other brands they can pull from, the likes of Opel or Vauxhall as we know them in the UK. And they've still got the DS name, which we do expect DS Penske to continue. Obviously, we know Jay Penske is obviously a big part of that team because he's still team principal, obviously. But yeah, so I think Stellantis should still own two teams, as we don't know exactly what's going to happen to the MSG Monaco Sports Group. Used to be Venturi, now it's Maserati, might become something else for sort of season 12 onwards. And then the good news story really has been the Lola Yamaha Act combination. Of course, they've got a podium most recently in the hands of my arch nemesis and hated rival Lucas Di Grassi, enemy of humanity in my opinion, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, he got fair play to him. He got a podium for the team, and it's great for all the people at Lola and Yamaha and Act, Mark Preston, Thomas Biamer, and Keith Smat and all the rest, that they were massively celebrating that, and rightly so, getting that second place at Miami. So it definitely seems that partnership is just beginning, and there's a lot more to come from that in Gen 4 as well. But yeah, what was the question? I sort of just got on a spiel there. Is Formula E still in a good place? I think remains to be really seen. It's certainly a bit worrying that Zach Brown was saying that part of the reason they left was because the viewing figures weren't getting any better, despite Formula E constantly touting high viewing figures that many outlets have been skeptical of, essentially. And obviously, I think in the UK at least, ITV viewing figures have definitely seemed to be on a bit of an upturn to what they were on sort of TNT Sports last year.
Even NASA.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, certainly. But I think losing McLaren is going to guarantee that the people that were, and I saw it whenever I was going to London EP as well, trackside, you would see loads of people that were in McLaren shirts effectively, and McLaren, merchandise. Obviously there were, maybe some of it was Formula One McLaren merchandise because it was a bit cheaper than the Formula E specific stuff and didn't have the NEOM logo on it, of course. But yeah, that's a big part of the fan base that I think might abandon the team going forward, but I guess we'll have to see. Maybe they'll go Jaguar or one of the other manufacturers. Obviously, Jaguar, not British owned because it's owned by Tata from India, but it's still a legendary British manufacturer that's still going to be around. So, yeah, I think we'll have to see what the impact's going to be. But the sky didn't fall in when Audi, BMW, and Mercedes left. So hopefully. I mean, it's not that it didn't fall in when Trulli left at the end of season 1, but that was mainly because Jarno Trulli had financially ran the team into the ground. And I think it was interesting because Jeff Dodds, I was just reading during when you were setting up a question, Jeff Dodds had basically said that our door is still open. I still play golf with Zach Brown, so our relationship hasn't fallen. But our door is still open is exactly what Alejandro Gag said to Jarno Trulli. When Trulli fell in the first season, we've heard zilch since then. So yeah, I'm pretty sure the Trulli comeback is not on, and I doubt the McLaren one is either. But, I expect the team will continue. And you never know, there might be one or two manufacturers that might be tempted in, but I guess World Endurance Championship is sort of become the new Formula E in terms of manufacturers, all jumping in at the same time for that hypercar rule set. So we'll have to see. Maybe all these manufacturers are focused on hydrogen power rather than electric power, particularly in Japan. I think Honda and Toyota have made a lot of noises about that. So we'll have to see which way the wind blows in the next few years. But I personally still think EVs have got something to offer. We'll have to see. I think there's a few more hoops that hydrogen cars have to jump through to sort of prove that they've got the range, whereas EVs I think are just starting to get there, but people like McLaren are clearly losing faith in Formula E specifically as a sort of place that they want to be. And I think if maybe there was another partner to come in sponsoring it, they might have continued, but I guess we'll never know.
And Matt, of course, very similar hoops that hydrogen is jumping through. That Formula E had to jump through at the very beginning of their career. And now we're 5 years in to hypercar, and it's starting now to attract, similar to how Gen 2 attracted manufacturers in. So what's your take on the current state of Formula E?
Yeah, and to the hydrogen point, obviously, and Ed mentioned Toyota, they're going to amend or knock down and rebuild the whole pit lane at Le Mans to incorporate hydrogen, or there was a story about this 18 maybe months ago, so that they can have hydrogen cars running properly at Le Mans and they can pipe all the stuff into the garages and whatnot else. Not sure where that story's got to in terms of its progression, but that has been in the pipeline for WEC. And you're right, it was that we had the boom period, I guess, of Formula E over sort of seasons 2 through 4, 5 into Gen 2 of all the manufacturers coming in. And pretty much all of them have, from that period, as you mentioned, with sort of BMW, Mercedes, Audi have fallen by the wayside.
Porsche's still there.
Porsche's still there. Nissan's still there. Jaguar obviously still there as well. To Jeff Dodds, the point about Jeff Dodds saying it's all fine. Well, he would say that, wouldn't he? Because he's the CEO of the business. Much like the news that ran on the top story of the news at 10 a little while ago, where someone else said it was all fine and it was someone else's fault. Hello, President Trump. Anyway, let's move on.
I thought I was the political one here, man.
No, well, you got it was a record time for you, Ed, for getting your Saudi political views in tonight, and we appreciate that thoroughly.
It just happened to neatly factor in. But
oh dear, I'll work extra hard. Don't worry, my hot's not to coming about how
it's okay. I'm sure the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia is about to kick me out of this call at the end of this segment. So.
Don't worry, Danica hasn't got to me just yet as well. just back to that.
The weekend is looming.
Yes, it's coming anyway. Ed, before we do let you go, of course, this evening, I want to get your thoughts, and we're coming in now. It's a tack charge again this weekend, or the pit stop charge, however you want to call it. I believe
it's called. That's a new branding for this season.
Yeah, renaming it as soon as it comes in. But that's back this weekend for Monaco. What's some of the other important headlines that we need to be made aware of coming into the doubleheader this week?
Well, a couple of other interesting news stories. We know James Barclay, the team principal of Jaguar, is apparently going to leave the team at the end of the season, along with the entire McLaren team, of course, because he's going to work for McLaren in a role. We don't know exactly what the role is yet, but we believe it's at the McLaren WEC Hypercar team. So obviously that's very, very exciting for him. But yeah, there's certainly a sense at Jaguar that obviously they had their big rebrand, Jaguar Land Rover, for the Jaguar brand at the beginning of the season. They won the opening race of the season with Mitch Evans quite spectacularly from the back of the grid. And then the rest of the season has been a bit of a disaster. And there's certainly a sense of instability. There's been a bit of bad luck for the drivers. Mitch Evans and Nick Cassidy haven't forgotten how to drive in Formula E, but far from it. But yeah, there's certainly a sense they've not been qualifying that well. Their rivals have all caught up. And there's a sense that the advantage that Jaguar had at the very early phase of Gen 3 it very much feels like it's faded at this point, and even the customer and vision team has had a little bit of a tricky time as well for the most part, although Robin Fry's got a pretty decent result in the end, despite the sort of attack mode sort of penalty from Miami. So Jaguar definitely, having won this same race last season in a 1-2 spectacular fashion, they're going to have to really fight to recapture that glory, because it's not just that Barclay's leaving at the end of the season. They also a year or so ago they lost Phil Charles, who's since moved to DS Techeetah, and their fortunes have slowly started to go on the uptick, thanks, I think, to Charles' sort of massive technical input. I wouldn't say the Adrian Newey of Formula E, but certainly he's very, very well regarded and knows exactly how to get the most efficiency out of these powertrains. So I think that's an interesting story. Obviously, Monaco becoming a doubleheader is a new development for this season. Means previously we only had one Monaco race. Now we got two. With the first being, is it the first one that's the ordinary race, Josh, and then the second one,
ordinary,
and then the second one is the pit boost race. Yes,
but
so
that could
just
change.
like it was in
Jeddah.
Yeah, but obviously I think in Jeddah it was sort of a lukewarm reception for pit boost. So this should be really interesting, because Monaco already a pretty proven race on the Formula E calendar for being pretty spectacular in the sort of current format. So it will be fascinating to see how it affects things on the Sunday. And of course, having two different winners will be a bit of an odd thing for Monaco. But I guess if it's two different winners, the more the merrier as far as Formula E is concerned, because it means they got twice the action and they don't have to freight everything off to a different circuit essentially. So yeah. I think those are the main big. So the other big story was that there was a documentary about Formula E that came out recently on Amazon Prime, which I've not gotten the chance to watch, but I've heard reasonably positive things about it. That it's sort of not quite their Drive to Survive, because they've only focused on 4 drivers instead of chopping up the season. They sort of cover the season chronologically and cut between the sort of 4 drivers that they chose to cover, which I believe were Antonio Felix da Costa. And it's interesting because there's a sort of a screenshot I saw from it where Radzi, one of the Formula E presenters, was saying, Antonio Felix da Costa is one of the nicest people on planet Earth, which given some of the tweets da Costa's been making about trans rights that were not entirely positive, I feel like that's a qualification based on identity, which if that's what it takes, if you're only nice to certain people because of who they are, then I'm sorry, but you can't be that nice. So da Costa's one of the people featured, and obviously he had an interesting season last year. There's Dan Ticktum, I think, is in it, and they interview Dan Ticktum's parents, which is quite interesting. There's who are the other people? Mitch Evans is one of them, and I forget who the 4th figure was. It might be Nick Cassidy. I think Nick Cassidy is certainly featured in it a little bit as well, but probably not as much as I think Nick Cassidy's fans were hoping. But yeah, so that's got some pretty good reviews, although obviously it's on Amazon Prime, so you have to pay it to Jeff Bezos to actually see any of it, which again is at least it's on an actual streaming platform rather than just sort of dumped out there for onto YouTube for everyone to ignore, essentially, like the last couple of Formula E big season documentaries were. But we'll have to see. Maybe it will attract a little bit of a different crowd, much like Drive to Survive did. But I think there's always a sense that it'll feel a bit like an imitator rather than the real McCoy, essentially. But yeah, I think those are the main stories I can think of going into Monaco.
Ed, thank you very much, and I'll see you over the weekend as well. Just a reminder that Formula E this weekend, it is on Saturday and Sunday only, with it being in Monaco. There's no action on the Friday with a practice session, so first practice is very early on Saturday morning, followed then by practice 2, qualifying 1, race 1, and Sunday morning we'll have practice 3, qualifying 2, and race 2 as well, alongside all of the other action. Ed, thank you very much. And I'll see you throughout the weekend as well. Thanks for coming on.
See you on Sunday. I'm a bit busy tomorrow. not tomorrow, on Saturday.
Saturday.
I thought it was the weekend already. Right.
No, not just there yet. Halfway there, mate. Halfway there.
That's okay. I'm very patient.
Wish I was. I want to get back.
Bye, Josh. Bye, Kobe. Bye, Matt.
Bye, Ed. Right, moving on to our second story then of the weekend. So, with the NASCAR race weekend at Talladega Superspeedway in the books, the on-track product we saw is one of the main talking points among the fan base and industry members alike. On X at NASCAR Man showcased the final 2 laps of the Xfinity Cup Series races In the clip showing the Xfinity cars, the drivers were able to move around more in the draft and create a third lane to go 3 wide. While in the clip of the Cup cars, they were only able to go 2 wide, and the drivers couldn't move around as much as the Xfinity cars, despite the Cup cars running slowly, running so close together. Maybe slowly is the right idea. Now, in the media centre before the race, Christopher Bell said he'd like to see NASCAR make changes to the Superspeedway racing package to allow them to race a little better. The photo you see on the screen of 4 wide racing has caused some uproar. Now, although watching the cars go 4 wide at Talladega in a tight pack can be an exciting visual, the only reason they were able to run like this is due to Superspeedway racing turning into a fuel-saving game during the stages. The drivers weren't even running full throttle. They were only pacing themselves, and the next-gen car can't produce racing like this at full speed. The photo taken there by Logan Riley from Getty Images. Well, me and JT were commentating on this. I'd come back from Donington after a thrilling weekend of touring car action and side-by-side drafting. And I thought, well, it may be late, I may be tired, but I've got to do a Talladega race. I've never done one before. So I sat myself down in the hotel with the virtual background, much like now, and I put a headset on and I talked to JT. And over the next 3 hours, I thought, what was the point in that? So my question to you, as Matt, you're our Grid Network team, of course, it's split on this topic. Some of my members didn't like the 4 wide fuel saving race. And you responded by saying, how can you hate this? This is beyond me. I'm with you. The 4-car running was great, but do you agree with Bell that NASCAR needs to improve the Superspeedway racing package? And what do you think of Elton Sawyer's comments saying that you have 67 lead changes among 23 different drivers? So when we look at it, what are we trying to fix?
Well, indeed, the stats, tell their own story. Christopher Bell would say that, wouldn't he? Because he was the only person really to be involved in the big accident of the day. And boy, was it a big one. And we were fortunate that Christopher got out of that without any injury, because that was a very hard hit to the inside wall coming out of turn 2. If Kobe can put that picture back up again, please, on screen, or from the flag stand there that we had. Thank you. If TV and radio and people on social media weren't telling you that these guys are fuel saving and that they're running 50% throttle, would we know? No. They're doing 180 miles an hour plus, 38 of them, or whatever the number was at the weekend, like that, covering a football field a second, or whatever the stat is. Just the visual, as Seth said during our call on USRN, it is the picture perfect picture of Talladega. That is what you come to see. Now, granted, that really only happened in stage 1, and most of stage 2 and stage 3 was kind of 2 and a bit of 3 wide, and then we had the 2 wide action pretty much all the way to the end of the race. But just look at that. They're doing 180 miles an hour plus. I don't care how much throttle percentage they're using. They are doing some, to use the phrase, they are doing a lick. And look how close they all are together, bouncing off each other front to rear. Now, at the end of the race, different story. But this was going to be one of my hots, so we'll burn a hot now. The end, thank goodness we got to the end of, well, both the stages without incident, apart from the one coming into the pits with Blaney, Keselowski and Kyle Busch. But we got to the end of the race without cars flying off in every different direction and panels flying off and Ryan Preece rolling at some stage, because generally what happens to Ryan on these super speedways, unfortunately, he got rolled by the technicians and he was disqualified after the race, after finishing second. But we got a clean finish. And we never get clean finishes at these super speedway tracks. We were looking at, like, we were getting one at Atlanta, of course, and we got the caution in turn 3 on the last lap. But I don't think, much like people complained and moaned about Darlington a few weeks ago, there was nothing wrong with that Darlington race. And to my eyes, there wasn't that much wrong with this, apart from there wasn't much moving and shaking and going around coming to the checkered flag. I don't understand what people's problem is. Honestly, I really don't.
when you watch the Olympics, 5,000 meters on the track, do we all yell and scream about the runners being bunched up on the first 3,500 meters, saving their
No,
limbs before legging out
that's a
the lake?
good point.
That's
If
a good
you,
point.
Josh, had done a JB Motorsports stream this Sunday instead of going to Donington Park of the London Marathon,
Yeah,
would you have been
yeah.
absolutely crazy at everyone and leaving the line at Blackheath when they've got
No.
2 hours and 15 minutes to run? Absolutely not. No.
No, it would have been pointless. But
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. I think I enjoyed the race. It was all right, but stage two stage
Drag
two
on a
needs
little.
improving. That dragged on a little bit, and I think stage two dragged so much that stage three started dragging. You really felt it by the end, and the fact is that we were sort of building up. I don't know what you were doing on your commentary. We were doing the same thing. We were sort of going like, "Don't worry, when's the go point?" And it felt like the go point never came. And it was weird.
Well, it was just before the pit stops, wasn't it? We had the go point in stage one where the Toyotas decided they were going to go and got to the front. And that was like, whoa, here we go, something's happening. And then we had the cautions and whatnot that slowed it all down again. But there wasn't that go point, really, was there, at the end, apart from the pit stops?
Yeah. And wasn't it what was it? What was it? 4 cautions, and 2 of those were stage breaks.
2 of them were the stages. The other one was the one coming into the pits with Blaney, Bush, Keselowski, as I mentioned, and the other one was the Bell, Chris Buescher incident off the restart from the other one.
I think JT said to me is that it's the longest green flag running at Talladega in Cup Series history. What we saw.
I heard a similar stat mentioned since '67 or something.
Yeah,
we've had that long green flag on a super speedway.
So that's good, but the fact is that it happened is sort of bad as well at the same time, because everyone watches Talladega because it's crazy. Didn't feel like it was crazy. Felt like we were running at Atlanta.
We're doing their going to break, going, oh, the big one, it could be coming. Here we go.
Yeah, didn't like that.
Never happened.
Didn't like that. Did not like the fact that they kept saying, oh, yeah, we could have the big one. We could have the big one. And I picked that up because big bottle of lemonade. But it never happened. And Matthew says here as well, we had 6-7 lead changes and a photo finish in a race that featured a premium on strategy, and we didn't have a big one stupidly. So if we get that in Texas, we'd be crowning it as the greatest race ever. Yeah, and I loved the photo finish. That was great, but it felt like the go point never came, and it felt like we were. I'll tell you exactly what it felt like. Oh yeah, Bristol was ridiculous. Yeah.
Spring.
What it felt like was to use it. I don't know how to do it. It felt like we'd been teased without being given the present. Do you know what I mean? We got all. Yeah. It's like, no, you don't get that now. Goodbye. So it's like, to be honest with you, the perfect way to describe it for anyone to see it felt like the last season of Doctor Who. It's like the entire series, we were teased by Russell T Davies. Oh, Ruby's this big, mysterious character, and her mother's this big, evil villain. Oh, she's just a normal woman. It felt like that. It's like, oh, what a letdown. Oh, when you get to the end of a book and you go, what the hell was that? It was ridiculous. So I didn't like it. It felt like you sort of wasted your time a bit. And considering that we'd had the week off for the Cup Series for Easter, and Xfinity had just come off one of the greatest races they've ever had at Rockingham. And that Xfinity race was spectacular. And for Cup to come in and go, right, we're at Talladega, it's time now to show why we're the big guns, we're the Premier Series. And they go on to deliver that. I don't know. It just didn't feel right to me. So
yeah, I said that actually in our USRN call. I think I used the phrase, they're all coiled up like springs after the off week, and what a place to come back and unleash the springs at Talladega, and it never really happened. But this is the normal NASCAR news/argument sphere of things. We had arguments over short tracks after Martinsville and Bristol. We're not talking about that this week because we're talking about arguments over Talladega. We'll get to Texas next week. No one will like the racing at Texas because no one likes going to Texas. But don't worry, Kansas is the week after, and that is one of the best tracks on the schedule. So
yeah, we'll be fine when we get to Kansas.
Well, we don't need to worry about super speedway racing now until we get to Atlanta in July, and then Daytona at the end of August.
And that better be good. The end of the Daytona in August.
Well, the Daytona race, of course, it's the regular season finale back again this year after it got shuffled about because of the Olympic break last year. So you'll have playoff jeopardy involved, which will make that race exciting. When there may be people that will have to go to get enough points, or indeed in Harrison Burton's case last year, win to get in.
I tell you what, I've actually got a great hot and not, both of them actually, they're coming up to do with NASCAR because I listened to a certain podcast on my train journey down, so we'll get to that later on. But while we're talking, I listened to it. I thought I had an hour and 43 minutes. It was a 2-hour train ride. I thought, go on then. So while we're talking about super speedway racing, we've got some breaking news actually about an hour before tonight's show, and it's involving Connor Zilisch. Now, on the final lap of the Xfinity Series race, Zilisch was at the front of the pack, battling for the win, when Jesse Love made contact with the number 88 Chevrolet, sending Zilisch hard into the inside wall on the back stretch. Now, on the radio, Zilisch complained about some pain in his back and spent some time in the infield care centre before he came out to speak with reporters. Now, Love was very upset about the incident because he feared that he had injured Zilisch, who he considers one of his best friends off the track. Now, as you can see on screen, Trackhouse Racing revealed that Zilisch suffered lower back injuries in the last lap crash at Talladega. Now, as a result, Cup Series driver Kyle Larson will replace him in the number 88 Chevrolet in this Saturday's Xfinity Series race at Texas Motor Speedway. The Xfinity Series also has 2 weeks off after Texas, so Zilisch will have 3 weeks to recover before the next race at Charlotte. You could argue that Larson doesn't need the extra track time at Texas, but another Trackhouse and WeatherTech back driver would probably benefit from it more. Shane Van Gisbergen is having a tough rookie season as he tries to learn ovals. Now, in the first 10 races, SVG has finished outside of the top 36 times and only has 2 finishes 20th or better. He's also 35th in the points, graphic courtesy of Trackhouse Racing and JR Motorsports. So, Matt, was it right? Well, you already know my point on this, so I'm pretty much out of it. I want to hear yours. Was it right to give Zilisch a 3-week break to heal from his lower back injuries? And do you think SVG should have been the replacement driver for Texas instead of Larson?
Well, yeah, and to clarify your point, Xfinity 2 doesn't go to Kansas, and then they get a week. Their week off is the All-Star weekend when we've got trucks and the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro. So that's why there's a 2-week break. My 2 drivers involved in this, or 3 of my drivers involved in this story. Connor, get well soon, was a pretty hard lick that he took on Saturday. So I guess from that point of view, they need to make sure he's back and fit for the summer stretch. So take him out the car. If he's not fitting out to it, doctors have advised, etc., then great, have him out. As much as I'd love to see Shane Van Gisbergen back in a Xfinity Series car, I think they've made the right decision here. The Cup Series has been a struggle for Shane. That's been well documented throughout this early quarter of the year. Third of the year now, incredibly. It's got to be May tomorrow. So putting him back in to Xfinity when he's having such a struggling, I think he needs to just focus on where he is and what he's got for Cup. Because if you put him back into Xfinity, where granted towards the end of last season, it was getting much, much better, but now he hasn't been back in an Xfinity car, especially on an oval, since then. So just keep him in the Cup car, keep him up to spec. Don't overload his weekend schedule, as much as we know SVG would race any day of the week, twice on Friday if needs be. If you gave him the opportunity, I would have said twice on Sunday, but obviously he races on Sunday anyway. I think keep him in don't put him in this, keep him in the Cup car. I would have preferred, if there'd been some kind of agreement here, maybe put Daniel Suarez in the car, because we know Larson is, again, his program is pretty hectic at the moment as well. With all the sprint car racing he's been doing, he was at Indianapolis last week for the open test, won last week, a couple of weeks ago, of course, at Bristol. May is going to be massive for Kyle, floating between Indy and Charlotte and North Wilkesboro for the All-Star race. So adding another race to his schedule is going to, I don't know, does he ever get tired? Kyle Larson just seems to be doing everything all the time. But again, for me, I think SVG being kept out of the car, he may never have even been in the conversation for this. So being that it's a junior motorsports car, realistically, and of course, Dale's got his tie-ins with Hendrick, and they're running a couple of their guys through that program already this year. So I think Suarez would have been a better pick for me, but
Hmm.
they've gone with Kyle.
SVG isn't of JRM or Hendrick's concern. JRM's main concern this week with the 88 is the Owners' Championship. Fair point.
Good point.
And the NASCAR Xfinity Series car doesn't run anywhere close to Cup car anymore, so there's no reason to change the platform for SVG on the weekends anymore. But is it wise to let Kyle Larson run when he's got such a big month ahead of him where he could get injured? Is that a risk to run?
He's more likely to get hurt in a sprint car than in an Xfinity Series. So you have to say, just taking the lottery option of it. But we've seen some big accidents at Texas before, mostly in IndyCar and IRL back in the day. But I don't know. To me, he's got, as you say, and I mentioned before, he's got such a overloaded schedule over this next 4 or 5 week period. Just to add another one in there, you don't want to get to Fast Friday of Indianapolis and you wake up one morning and go, "Oh, I'm done. I can't be bothered with this anymore." You know what I mean? So, which obviously that's not going to happen. But if it was me, that's what I'd be saying.
Stranger things have happened, haven't they? Well, Mika Hakkinen, Jackie Stewart. Well, Jackie sort of walked away because of what happened with Francois. But many drivers have just woken up one morning and gone, "That's it, I'm done, goodbye." I think of Mika did it.
Rosberg,
Jackie did it. Rosberg did it. I'm trying to think who else he did it. Oh, he got out of the car. It was in NASCAR, and they got spooked, didn't they? We were talking about this last week about
the car Edwards.
Yeah, got the voice in his head that said "get out of the car," and got out and never drove again. And later on in the race, there was a massive accident. So yeah, just it's happened. Never say never in the crazy world of motorsports. But what I'm going to say next is it's time to hand back over to Matt White for the latest from the Grid EPI update.
Thank you, Josh. Another week of Grid Endurance Performance Index racing. We're now 31 races down of the near 160 races in the biggest Drivers' Championship in World Motorsport. And we will bring it to you. And here's what's happened this weekend. We start in Germany. The DTM got underway across the weekend at Oschersleben. A win each for Mercedes and Porsche. Lucas Auer getting the victory on Saturday afternoon, holding off Jordan Pepper in his Lamborghini for the win at Oschersleben on Saturday. And on Sunday, Archane Guvan was the winner, the Turk, in the Manfei Racing Porsche. So they were the race winners. Jordan Pepper will lead the championship after the first 2 rounds of the DTM. Staying in Germany, we switch across to the Nürburgring, where it was NLS 2 on Saturday, the Nürburgring Landstrecker Series. Dorian Boccolacci and Alessio Picariello, if I can get my words out, getting the win for Team Falcon. They won the first race with their other car, which came second, I believe it was, off the top of my head, this weekend. And they've won now the second race as well. The Pro-Am race was won by GT Racing, Alexei Veremenko, Frank Stippler, and Selv. And in the AM category, Michael Heinrich, Lorenzo Rocco, and Arno Klassen were the winners. British GT was in action at Silverstone on Sunday with the Silverstone 500, round 2 of their season, a 3-hour race, won by champions from a couple of years ago, Darren Leung and Dan Harper, winning for Paradigm Competition in their BMW by that much over the Mercedes that came in second from 2C's Racing. Kian Jewis at the wheel of it. So close run thing after 3 hours of action on the Grand Prix circuit at Silverstone. Congratulations to Darren and Dan. And in a GT World Challenge USA, they were in action at the Circuit of the Americas at the weekend. A come from the back victory in race 1 for the Random Vandals car of Kenton Cook and Colin D. Filippi in their BMW had a penalty after qualifying, which set them to the back of the grid. No matter, they came through and won the race on Saturday from rear of field. Race 2 on Sunday was won by the Regulator Racing team of Phil Ellis and Jeff Burton. No, not that one. This is another one. So they were the winners on Sunday. This weekend coming up, we've got there's the Mercedes that won on Sunday. Thank you, Kobe. This weekend, another packed schedule. The European Le Mans Series gets back in action. Its second race of the season at Paul Ricard. Brands Hatch hosts the Sprint Cup for GT World Challenge Europe, their first round of the season. In Australia, the GT World Challenge is there too for Sydney Motorsports Park. 2 races under lights for them. And it's Super GT at Fuji this week for the traditional Golden Week race in Japan at Fuji. There is how the championship standings in the Grid Endurance Performance Index of 2025 stand after week 5, with Felipe Nasr and Nick Tandy still at the top of the tree. IMSA back in action in a couple of weeks' time at Laguna Seca, so we'll see how they get on there. A couple of movers and shakers. Sven Muller was in the top 10. He's fallen quite a long way down after a bad result in the British GT race at the weekend, so he's dropped all the way to 18th. I think he was 4th off the top of my head in the point standings. Last week, Archie Given, the DTM race winner from Sunday, is 13th there in the standings. And as I said, Nazar and Tandy top, but it should shuffle around quite a bit this weekend with all those races that I told you about happening. Busy bank holiday weekend here in the UK coming up this weekend, and plenty of endurance motorsport action to get your eyes and ears around over the weekend, along with plenty of other motorsports as well. Give you the update on all those races and an updated point score for week 6, the Grid Endurance Performance Index, on the show next week. Now, time to hand over to Kobe. A couple more headlines from the week that was.
Thanks, Matt. Time for some more motorsports news from around the world. Last Friday, Amazon Prime announced a docuseries titled Earnhardt, and that will premiere on Thursday, May 22nd. This will come out 3 days before Prime Video's very first NASCAR Cup Series race broadcast, the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Prime Video users will be able to view Earnhardt in over 240 countries and territories worldwide, which will consist of 4 episodes, with the final 2 episodes airing on Thursday, May 29th, an entire week later. The docuseries will focus on the history of the 7-time Cup Series champion known as the Intimidator. It will feature rare footage from the archives, past races, emotional interviews with his colleagues, children, closest friends, showcasing Earnhardt's rise to becoming a star in NASCAR, including his family dynamics with his son, Dale Earnhardt Jr., graphic courtesy of Amazon Prime Video. And during the month of May, Corey Haim's number 11 Tricon Garage Toyota, sponsored by Safelite, will trade the traditional red paint scheme for a special blue paint scheme for the next 4 NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series races at Texas, Kansas, Charlotte, and Nashville. The Safelite Foundation will partner Foster Love, a nonprofit dedicated to improving the foster care experience for a total of 430,000 children in the foster care system. This deal comes together in honor of National Foster Care Awareness Month in May. The initiative aims to recognize foster parents, family members, volunteers, mentors, policymakers, and child welfare officials. Haim said he realizes how different things were for him growing up in a state of and supportive home, but hearing stories from the foster care community inspired him to make a difference with this special scheme and initiative. Graphic courtesy of Tricon Garage. And before this weekend's Indy Next race at Barber Motorsports Park, Chip Ganassi Race announced that Bryce Aaron will replace Jonathan Brown in the number 9 car. Aaron moves to Ganassi after starting the 2025 season at St. Pete with HMD Motorsports. Last year, he drove for Andretti Global in Indy Next and finished 9th in the championship, scoring a pair of podiums at Laguna Seca in Portland. He also finished 6th overall earlier this year in the Rolex 24 at Daytona in a JDC Miller Motorsports Porsche GTP entry. Aaron said he's excited to join a historic and accomplished team in Indy Next, and it's easy to see why they've been so successful after spending time with them during last week's open test. Photo courtesy of Chip Ganassi Racing. And the outgoing driver right here, Jonathan Brown, has put out a statement saying it's a tough update to give. Firstly, I'd like to thank everyone at Chip Ganassi Racing. I entered this team only a few months ago, and they are the best organization that I had the pleasure of working with. The work and support they have given me so far is incredible. Unfortunately, due to funding issues, I will not be driving for the foreseeable future. This news came unexpectedly, but I'd like to thank my sponsors and everyone who has contributed to my journey so far. And as of right now, I'm working hard to get back in a car as soon as possible. Thank you to everyone for the support. And Jonathan Brown now becomes a free agent. We'll see if he can put together a deal and resume his Indy Next career later in the season, kind of in the same boat as Sophia Florshire, who ended up losing her Indy Next ride several weeks ago due to funding issues as well. And this is something that we've seen in Indy Next, in the last handful of seasons or so with drivers. Starting off the year, you think they're going to be full time, and then all of a sudden, the funding is cut off for whatever reason, and then they have to, take a step out of the ride until next time. So we'll be keeping an eye on this situation, see if Jonathan can return to racing. And our last story is Aston Martin factory driver Darren Turner will make his return to the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship next weekend at Laguna Seca. Turner will join the Harder Racing team, sharing the number 27 Aston Martin in the GTD class with co-driver Casper Stevenson. he's not a stranger to the team because he currently drives for them in GT World Challenge America and previously won the GTD class with the team in the 2023 Rolex 24 at Daytona. Turner said it's been a long time since he raced the Laguna Seca. In 2013, I believe he competed in the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series, so definitely been a long time. But he also said that Laguna Seca is a super enjoyable track. He's replacing Tom Gamble, who won't be available due to a scheduling conflict, as Gamble will be competing in the FIA World Endurance Championship 6 hours of Spa, driving the Valkyrie Hypercar, photo courtesy of the Harder Racing Team. And that's all of the news I got for y'all this week. So I'm going to turn it over to Matt for everyone's favorite game. Pick a winner.
Yeah, big weekend next weekend if you're a hypercar fan, with IMSA at Laguna Seca on Sunday and WEC at Spa on the Saturday. Anyway, pick a winner is back this weekend. There is the updated standings, and Mr. Matt B, last year's champion, scaled the heights of the championship ladder, and he's now got 2 points on a little gaggle of us behind there. Myself, Tanner on 17, Kobe on 16. Josh, where are you? Down in 10th position on 7. Need to up your game, my friend. Need to keep picking Marc Marquez, although he didn't win at the weekend. More on that in a moment. We have Formula E. We talked about it at the top of the show with Ed. Double for them over the weekend, so 2 points available there. We're going to pick Saturday's, or attempt to pick Saturday's winner on the show here. I am going to go for Nick Cassidy to pull one out of the bag on Saturday in Monte Carlo. Kobe, who are you going with?
Yeah, that would be a huge win for Nick Cassidy because, as you guys alluded to during the McLaren Formula E segment, Nick Cassidy's kind of been under the water this year. He obviously hasn't forgotten how to drive in Formula E. Just been a whole bunch of bad luck to start off this season. Since, the incident at Portland last year, it seems like Nick Cassidy's kind of been in quite a slump trying to break out of that, and him winning Monaco race 1 would definitely go a long way towards getting out of that slump. But I'm going to go with a different driver. I'm going to go with the driver who won the last race, out at Homestead Miami Speedway. I think Pascal Wehrlein goes back to back. Who you got, Josh?
Three different answers coming your way, my friend, because I'm going to pick Oliver Rowland to win race 1 on the streets of Monaco. He is about time due for some good luck again, and I don't know, he's slowly closing back in the title fight. So I'm going to go for Ollie Rowland.
And that's the reason I didn't pick Ollie Rowland, because I've picked him for the last few races and it's not come my way. It's from the real Harbour by a racetrack, Monaco, to the fake one. It's the Miami Grand Prix this weekend outside Hard Rock Stadium down there in Florida. And it is a sprint weekend for Formula One. So we're going to get the chance to pick a Formula One sprint weekend winner here. First time Miami's held a sprint. Is that correct? I believe it is. Second, thank you. I am going to go with the man with the hot hand in F1 at the moment, and he is riding high at top of the point standings, Oscar Piastri, my sprint race winner. Kobe, who are you going with?
I don't know how they're going to do this weekend, so I'll probably end up changing my pick, but I'm going to start off by making I guess what you consider a surprise prediction. I'll go with Charles Leclerc and Ferrari to win to win the sprint race in Miami. Who you have, Josh?
That's not a bad shout, Ferrari bring a lot of upgrades to the venue, so that's a decent shout. I will go for an even equally a crazier one and say at this stage, I think Max Verstappen could win the sprint race as well. It's first out of the block, and he's got vengeance here. He wants to regain what he lost last year.
Of course, you can make your pick all the way up until the green flag of whatever race you are picking for, as I scramble back to the Slack chat to get the list for you, just to run you through. So Miami, Grand Prix and Sprint, so 2 points available there. 2 races of Formula E, of course, we've talked about at Monaco. IndyCar back this weekend at Barber Motorsports Park, and NASCAR at Texas, which we've also mentioned in the show. Get your choices in. Use the hashtag pick a winner across all of the Grid Network TV social media. Adam is going for Sam Bird on Saturday in Monaco, and Lando Norris to win the sprint race. So that's 4 different people from the 4 of us for Formula E. And John is also going with Lando to win on Saturday. Can I pay money for more points, says Matthew Ainsworth. Well, no, unfortunately, we do not take bribes at the Grid Network. Get your picks in. Use the hashtag pick a winner across all social media, and you can get yourself on the board. There is still 150 points, I think it is off the top of my head, available between now and the end of the year. So with the top person on 19, plenty of chances to score, and plenty of points up for grabs this weekend. We'll round out the show as we always do with a little hot and a little not from a very busy weekend. And Mr. Birch, you had your own commentary box all to yourself at Donington Park for the touring cars at the weekend, which were excellent. Please tell us more.
Oh my God, what a weekend. Yes, I needed a box to cover the MotoGP sessions, and the touring cars and ITV and Richard John Neal especially very kindly gave me access and let me use commentary box 3 at Donington Park. Now, there's the main commentary box, which is where ITV were housed, and I had a look in there, and of course I went in there and saw their equipment, and their monitors are tiny. I felt quite, I felt like, oof, that's a bit of a surprise. They're tiny. They're like, actually, I can probably pick one up from over here. They are
They look
tiny.
quite
I'm
big
going
on the TV when David Allison's standing in front of them with his back to them.
But oh, well, that's handy, isn't it?
So small, it's invisible.
I'm so sorry. That's ridiculous. I'm so sorry. Well, if you know what a 20-inch little 14-inch one television is, if you've had an iPad or something, they were that big. They were tiny, and they changed the headsets on Sunday because they complained that they had some really old ones and they were chafing at their ears a bit. So they swapped them for Sunday. But yeah, it was a good commentary box, but arguably, I've seen better. But the commentary box I was in, my goodness me, what a sight. We were located directly in front of the start-finish line. I could see the first 7 rows of the grid. If I looked at the commentary box, I could see the lights and all the way down to turn 1. I was directly above Nick Hamilton. So where his pit box was, he was just there. I had Josh Cook, Stephen Jelly just as well down to my right, and they came into the pit lane a lot. Sadly, they had trouble. And it was just amazing. It was a bit echoey. The microphones were struggling a bit because the commentary box had a lot of echo in it, and it was also very hot and the cars whizzing by. So the mics were echoing a bit, but we've sorted that for when we go back in Grand Prix loop. Around about then, yeah. Very early September, I think, or late August. Because we're going to do Zandvoort from there as well. So I'll do race 1 and 3. Then during race 2, JT will lead the touring cars, and I'll do Formula 1 in the corner with Megan back here. So we've already worked out what to do later on in the season, everybody, for when we go back. Oh, it was fantastic. The sound, the heat, the company, the people, it was amazing. It was. If you ever want to go to a paddock, the touring cars are the most friendly and the most open. Had a lovely catch up with Steve Ryder. He says he feels like now it's the right time to leave and retire. And, I asked Louise Goodman as well, is she going to get the main gig? She says, no, don't want it. If it was 10 years ago, maybe, but I'm happy running up and down the pit lane. Spoke to Richard John Neal, who also said, in many words, that he's doing 2 more seasons, and next year he's 25th, and see where it goes from there if he does another one. And the only person who really seemed excited about the whole weekend was Paul O'Neill. So that was it, really. And it was quite a weird weekend, to be fair. And everybody was just so lovely. And I walked in on the Saturday, walked up to the media centre, I put my suitcase in the locker, and everyone was saying, "Oh, hi, how you doing?" All that lot. And we'd all seen each other on media day, but not everybody goes to that. So there were some other people like Tom Gray, the dapper English gentleman who goes around with the wooden spoon. He's our Toka Quick Fit presenter this year. So he was there doing social media platforms on the Saturday and Sunday. Lovely bloke. Michael Hill was there, voice of the Paddock Show. And I sort of ran into him when I was live, and I thought, what are you doing here? And then I ran into him again. He said, I need... Yeah, and I said to him, he said, I need to watch the sprint race from somewhere. I said, well, do you want to come to Combox 3 and do some commentary? So he came up and we commentated on the sprint race together for MotoGP, which was a unique experience. And then I didn't know that Richard John Neal was in the commentary box that ITV and the touring cars had let me use in the media centre. So I walk in and all of a sudden I turn my back and there's Richard, who gives me the warmest handshake and, how you doing? How you doing? Yeah. And it was a fantastic weekend. And I've never walked away from a weekend feeling as happy as I had that first weekend. Nothing went wrong. Everything went right. and it was brilliant. So yeah, and
lovely
then
sunny day as well, or sunny
Oh!
weekend didn't help, didn't it?
I'm slightly sunburned under the eyes. It did not help, but I tell you what, mate, that commentary box was fantastic and thankful. But oh my God, do I need a fan or an air conditioner in there? You close the
Yes.
commentary box door, and it's like you're in a sauna. I was sweating. I was like that for the entire race, and I was Tom Cams alongside me for most of the touring cars, and we were both looking at each other, going, "We need to get out of here. It's so hot." And then last lap, Lucy joined us for race 2, and there's 3 of us standing very close together, and we were almost passing out. It was bad. It was bad. But yeah, unique experience, and I've got a screenshot of the commentary box for virtual background. I couldn't let that go. Oh, it was special. I think a very big hot, because as Will Wood put it, from Race Fans, I met up with him. He said it's nice because it's channel recognition and it shows how much you're impressing them. And it was spectacular. And all the drivers as well were kind and gave their time, and I was able to go up to them and as well and ask what's going on, and and the people I saw there and got some other intel, and it was fantastic. I've got a lot now to sort of build the season on already after just one weekend, and I'm not at Brands Hatch as of yet. I don't think I will be going. Of course, I missed Netherton completely thanks to British Grand Prix from MotoGP and Formula 1 in Monaco and Indy 500. But then I think I'm doing Thruxton, Alton, and Croft back to back, which is going to be the middle half. And I might actually do Not Killed, depending on how it goes. Then I am definitely doing Donington Grand Prix again. And then, depending on what I can get sorted for Brands, might do Brands if I can have a box. So yeah, that was the weekend. It was fantastic, mate. Ultimate hop for me, that one.
Yeah, very happy for you and the team, because with touring cars is changing their attitude towards putting everything on YouTube now for the world, and Adam put in his hot before it's on Racer Plus or Racer Network, whatever it's called now in the States as well. JB Motorsport's becoming the unofficial watch along, the unofficial watch along channel for touring cars. I'll come to my touring car hots in a minute. Adam also says F1 in Miami going to be hot this weekend, and the ARCA in Talladega. More on that in a second. Touring cars hots for me was the grid size is slightly up, which is always good from what it was last year, because we talked about that on the show, didn't we, a few times during the year last year that it was a bit depleted. Funny hot was Tim Harvey calling Boost hybrid a couple of times during the commentary, which was do
you know, he's not the only one. So many of the drivers are doing it, and we've done it a couple of times because they changed it so late. Because what they've got with this Toka Boost is effectively still the hybrid, but they've just changed the name, and the hybrid element of it's gone. So it's a KERS unit effectively with the Boost, and everyone's going, well, it's still hybrid, but no, it's Boost, and everyone's got to go out with it.
As I Blue Sky, we've not come up with a tweeted for Blue Sky yet, have we? If it's going to be Ingram versus Sutton again for the year, which it looks likely to be, I'm absolutely here for it, because that was brilliant racing between the two of them all day on Sunday.
Tingram actually said at the end of it, I need a Mackey's and a beer. He said that. And Ash was glowing. I've never seen Ash glow like that before. A 113 for him is the perfect start, and then a 222 for Ingram. Tom Chilton getting race 3 was a blinder. First time since Croft last year. Oh, it was a happy. It's weird. It was a happy touring cars. It wasn't doom and gloom and miserable, but yeah, I've been. Yeah.
I do have a touring car not, but I'll hold that back for a minute. Let's talk about Jerez. Oh, massive hot Jerez MotoGP. The crowd, oh my goodness, unbelievable! 225,000 people over the weekend, 100,000 on Sunday for race day for MotoGP at Jerez, which is the size of Martinsville. It's so crammed in together, and they had 100,000 people sitting around the edge of it. Madness.
It was such a special weekend.
Quartararo on pole, and then came second in the main race. Yeah, he biffed himself in the sprint race when he was trying to be too clever with Marquez and fell. But Yamaha back in. Well, maybe because there's no
Yeah,
straights.
they are.
Yamaha back. Mir was going well on the Honda. He was 6th before he inevitably crashed. Vinales and a couple of the other KTMs in and around the top 10. We've got more people coming to the party in MotoGP, which is hopefully a sign of things to come through the European summer. It's just not going to be all Ducati all the time.
I don't think it will. I think as soon as we've all said, as soon as we hit Europe, it'll start to come together, and it is. Alex.
Yes. The 200 win for a Spaniard in the Premier class, and it was in Spain, and it was his first win, and he rode brilliantly.
It was spectacular ride, and he was even ahead of Mark at the time. So when Mark had his error, so it was pitch perfect. And another thing is, I left the commentary box after that, and Richard was sat on the desk opposite the commentary box, and so was on the other journalist, and Ben said, "Yeah, you take it you enjoyed that, Ben." And then one of the
hear you through the wall.
They could hear me through the wall of the box, because it was exciting. It was good, and I am 90% convinced that all the media centre heard me, and we're separated by a door as well. So when you go into the media centre, you've got all the little desks that go out, and then you've got a set of double doors. You go through those, and you get a couple more tables for some extra journalists, and then you've got the commentary boxes dotted down. One of them is where the Turco radio is, which is also the coffee room. The next one is a podcast room. That's always there, the MSV circuits. Combox 3 is where we were, and then Combox 4, or Combox 2 actually in this instance, that's where Tim Harvey and David Addison sat. And then Combox 1 was a green room, and then the main Combox was where ITV were. So that's how it sort of all works out. But it was really bizarre, that MotoGP race, because Mark looked vulnerable again. Quartararo was quick, and then Alex was back to his old days of Moto2, Moto3. It was fantastic. Absolutely stellar. I don't have any knots, I'm afraid. I don't think I can think of one.
Okay.
If you've got knots, go for it.
Well, I have got a couple. Adam mentioned ARCA being hot. The finish to the ARCA race was pure ARCA. He also says another hot was Alex Marquez winning. Glad to see him get a win. Yeah, cool. As I said, cool to see getting all that thing. Fox's coverage on Sunday. It's on network television. We have to expect adverts. Otherwise, it won't be on network television because that's where the money comes from. They did go to a side-by-side with 10 laps to go, which seemed to last for about 5 laps during green flag, though, which was very, very poor. Personal hot that I forgot in hot before we get to more knots. It's the 1st of May tomorrow, and last weekend I finally got to the end of my list of races from 2024 that I had to watch. So I finally watched the F2 finale at Abu Dhabi and the Formula E race at Sao Paulo. It's a third of the year gone in 13 minutes where we're sitting. That's a third of the year gone already. And yes, I know, scary, isn't it? I finally finished watching races from last year. I'm quite happy about that.
It's Megan's birthday at the moment as well, so she might kill me if I'm not at the end. So we better rush through. Knots. Go on. What's your knot?
I've got two other knots. Something that Matthew Owens, who's watching, brought this to our attention earlier on. From the Xfinity race, Austin Green got. I'll read this as how he's put it in our chat earlier on. Austin Green got penalised for failing inspection for the Xfinity race on Saturday. He was penalised 5 playoff points and 20 driver points, but he didn't qualify. So he was given a penalty for failing pre-qualifying inspection, but didn't qualify. So we've all got more points in the Xfinity Series than Austin Green. I've never heard of a points penalty being given for someone that they never qualified for a race.
So they're negative, and
yeah, he's on -1.
We have more points in the wow. Okay,
73rd in the Xfinity Series Championship. Get a hold of that number. 73rd.
That now means that he's stats-wise the worst NASCAR driver.
He's got a bright future in front of him. He's a good young kid. But
Quick, fix it. We can't let Danica be beaten. Come on.
My touring car knot that I mentioned quickly before we do have to scarper out of here. I watched the first race live. Started at 10 to 12. After that finished, the at-track action went to the lunch break, and so did ITV. They talked a bit more about what happened in race 1, and then they talked a bit more about what happened in race 1, and then they talked a bit more about what happened in race 1. And I'm sitting there going, there was a Porsche race this morning. Just put it on now. I've got an hour window here where I'm in the house on my own. I thought I'd at least get to watch touring car race 1 and something else before the family returned. No, they showed 10 minutes of highlights from the F4 race from the morning, although it looked like most of that had safety car in it.
It was safety car
and
delivered. I was watching it
live for the second Carrera Cup race, which was on at 2:00. So there was, and ITV4 has many advert breaks which are very long, and most of that period in the lunch area was taken up by talking heads.
No wonder we got so higher views. Everybody was saying that they had no idea what was happening throughout the weekend, and we went live on Saturday for the whole day and got about 10,000 viewers. Sunday got 7,000 viewers, which for touring cars, by the way, is great viewership, and consistently throughout the day. That is great. Before we were lucky if we got 50. So to get that, we were very happy with the weekend. Let's not forget that, people. But Steve came to me and said on Sunday, at least you're live. We're not live. And then I asked Richard, what are you covering today? He says, oh, I'm covering Porsche and Formula 4 because nothing. So that's it. They're not covering
Sprint Challenge, wasn't it? Both.
Yeah. I was like, well, is that it? And everybody I spoke to said, the support category is just not it anymore. Needs improving.
Yeah, they do. It was back in the day when we had, showing my age here, Clio Cup, Formula Renault, Ginetta Juniors. It was a proper, really good support package, but they had two lots of Porsches, F4 and Minis, wasn't it, at the weekend?
Minis, the Mini Challenge,
But yeah, they had an hour of television, or hour or so there of television, where they talked a lot and showed 7.5 minutes of a 20-minute F4 race from the morning, which they could have shown in full.
I think JT had to play filler at that point because I was doing the MotoGP. But when we're back there, we're doing the pit walk and getting people and getting drivers' thoughts. But
they went and interviewed some drivers, sat outside the garages doing the autographs and whatnot. They had Paul O'Neill and people down there doing that. But just show one of the other races from the morning. That's what people tuned in for.
I'm shocked by that. I'm really shocked. My ultimate knot will be the fact that I've heard two things. One, from Matthew Owens, the Oracle, Danica Patrick will be part of Fox's coverage of the Indy 500.
Yes.
Why? Just why? But whatever, I suppose. And Danica Patrick will be part of Sky's coverage this weekend at Miami. Yeah. Good luck, everybody.
This is why you tune in when Brian Tyler starts and then turn it off once the checkered flag comes out, like I do. Adam says he always loves the support categories and touring cars and supercars for years. Yes, supercars, excellent, Adam. I don't watch any. I've never, for a long time, I've not watched a whole touring car show, but I will quite happily sit through V8 Utes, Porsche Carrera Cup Australia, and Super 2. Matthew Owens says, I've never heard such of a thing. It's why. What an advantage he must have had. He clearly had so much qualifying speed. I was talking about Austin. Yeah. Wow. Anyway.
Yeah, that's about it. Well, I tell you what, I'm looking forward to it. You better get that Danica doll ready for next weekend, next week, my friend, because there's going to be a lot of
reach. I will make sure she's in prime position for next Wednesday.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot to talk about because no doubt she's going to say something stupid like she already does.
I have to faction a lizard head to put on her. Never mind.
Donald Trump is also going to be an appearance. Let's not forget that. So, yeah, she'll probably be, fangirling.
Oh, he is at the Grand Prix, isn't he? Oh, goodness.
Yeah. Celebrating 100 days of America. It's like, just get lost, what's it looking? Right. Okay. I'm turning into Ed now. I've just realised, but I think
Yeah,
everybody can agree
Stop
with us
now.
there.
Let's get out of here before we
Yeah.
upset anyone else.
Yeah, right. Taking a look at that upcoming schedule as well. Thursday night, Grid Live pre-race show. That's going to be previewing the NASCAR weekend. Saturday, Grid Live pre-race, previewing Formula One's Miami Grand Prix and IndyCar at Barber. And Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up is 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Texas. And Monday, Grid Encore is at 7 p.m. Eastern, recapping the Truck and Xfinity races at Texas as well. A lot of T's there, confused me in the script. Please do continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much for helping us reach 1,600 subscribers. Now we're inching closer to our next milestone of 2,000 subscribers. You can hit the bell icon to get notifications so you always know when we go on the air, and you can follow all of our social media platforms and visit the new revamped gridnetworktv.com. That's gridnetworktv.com. You can take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. You can join Colin, Mark, Deshelle, Robin, David, and Matthew, who invest each month in the Grid Network. And we encourage you to join these fine folks, help us keep us on the air. And once we hit $500 per month, we can afford to send our team to the track to cover more races and grow our media outlet. The link to all that is in the video description below. And if you want to make a one-time donation, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link, get your name on the board, and invest as much as you want. And you can consider buying a specific on-air personality a cup of coffee, and they will thank you on the air. So, for Kobe Lambeth and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index, Ed Hunter, and myself, Joshua Birch from JP Motorsports, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Good night.